The following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I've gone almost a whole month without addressing this. And I normally do a pretty good job of delving into related topics as such. So let's talk about something here. I, for the first time since I was 15, so like 25 years, have gotten myself into talk therapy. And the reason I did is because for the longest time, I tried to just figure out how to cope with all the anger and anxiety and depression myself that comes from switching jobs, stressful jobs, too many kids in a house too small, married life, dealing with the beast, dealing with my mom, dealing with life. I tried. And my wife, to her credit, kept telling me, you need to go talk to someone. You need to talk to someone. My kid's therapist said, maybe you should talk to someone. Even the CPS lady that dealt with us for the beast was like, maybe you should talk to somebody about this. You seem angry. And my argument always was, what is the point of talk therapy if my life is going to be the exact same once I leave that room? So I decided that I'd done it my own way for far too long and failed, and it's ruined my marriage. And one of the biggest things is my anger and my inability to just deal with shit without having an overly drawn out, extra emotional reaction and making things worse. And, I've been seeing somebody for a while now. And that's because I decided that I tried my way. It didn't work. My wife is smart. I'm going to submit to her will and go see someone. And I've covered a myriad of topics with him. The state of my marriage, how I feel, how stressed out I am all the time, dealing with the beast, dealing with my mom, things of that nature. And I feel a little better. And there's some weeks now where I'm not going to have a session, and I'm sitting here going, God, I wish I could go in there and just belch my guts out. And maybe it's not changing the things in my life that suck, but it is giving me kind of an outlet, which this show kind of used to be. The difference is that when you do the show with your best friend and they're pretty much like a yes man and they agree with a lot of the things you say and they're very supportive, you don't end up having the tough conversations. They don't challenge your point of view. So how do you grow as an individual? And one of the things that I must point out is that I hyperanalyze everything that goes on in my life. And I think about it for hours, every day. Hours. So I kind of come to conclusions on my own. One of them being that throughout my adolescence and into my adulthood, just because I figured it worked in the past, I would throw things or break stuff or punch walls. And I got to say, I did that shit the last few years. And my wife got to the point where she was fit to be tied. She's like, the kids don't need to see this. It's starting to scare me a little. I mean, I never threatened her, but life got to be so much that I punched a few holes in the wall in the hallway. And I was ashamed of it, honestly. And other stuff that I broke around here because I was flipping out and I made it seem like it was the fault of my wife for not being sympathetic to all of my needs. But in reality, the reason is not that she doesn't care, that she couldn't hug me or be there for me or want to listen. It's that I had been such a terror for so long that I had created a situation that I had caused her not to feel the same way or want to be near me when I'm upset, that it drove her anxiety up, which is why she moved out months ago. It just got to be too much, and I couldn't see the light of day. And unfortunately, I didn't see what I needed to do until it was pretty much too late. And now she's like, I don't want to give it another shot. I don't know what to tell you. I don't foresee you changing, and I don't know. You need to work on you for a while. And that's what I'm doing. But breaking stuff, throwing shit, what did it ever gain me? a few seconds of aggression release, I probably could have just grabbed a pillow and screamed into it like they did in that Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where it was Mac Day and we got to meet Country Mac, his cousin, as played by Sean William Scott. That shit, scream therapy, that works. That's what the song Shout by Tears for Fears is about, just screaming it out. That's why they tell kids to try that shit. It fucking works. It makes you feel better. A lot better than having to look at a closet door with a dent in it that's shaped like my fist because I let the kids' anxiety and disobedience throw me over the edge. So I gave into the talk therapy. The other thing she recently suggested is maybe it's time you go get on some medication for anxiety and such. But I still won't do that. Because I don't bank a lot of faith in psychiatric medication because I don't need antipsychotics or anything. I just need to figure out positive coping mechanisms. Not eating junk food to make me feel bad as I eat my feelings. Not seeking out other human beings to put my penis inside to make me feel better. You know, for years, I didn't know what I needed because I never felt okay. And I never felt like I was getting anywhere. And it was just, I was floating through life. And it got to where it was my wife didn't want to be near me. And that's when I realized the thing that calms me down the most is when she just kind of talks to me and puts her arms around me. Like being held. That is the most calming thing that you could give me. It is way more beneficial than a whole handful of Prozac or any of that shit. And with the side effects and the fact that it could amplify suicidal ideation, which I already deal with because my life sucks and I've been wired that way. Some people think about killing themselves and death all the time, whether they want to kill themselves or not. They do. It's an intrusive thought. It's a natural occurring phenomenon, and I'm a sufferer of that shit. So I won't do the pills. I will keep going to see my therapist. It does seem to be making me feel a little bit better. But it's funny because the last time I saw someone, it was a lady. I was 15. I had just tried to kill myself by taking sleeping pills. And I was dealing with all the issues I had. And funny enough, I told her about my relationship with my mom. And she brought my parents in. And she's like, here's what I want you to do. Tell them everything you just told me.
What?
And I couldn't. I was scared to. I knew I'd get yelled at. That was the household I lived at, where if you said something that my mom didn't like, she raised the fucking stink and she basically broke you down mentally to get you to acquiesce to her will, which is abusive. And worse off, she won't cop to the fact she used to do it. She's just like, oh, what are you talking about? Which, by the way, is textbook gaslighting, trying to get somebody to question their view of reality. And now I got this new therapist, and I tell him about her, and he's like, Jesus Christ, well, no wonder you have such issues with relying on conflict avoidance and trying to always be right. It's because you're trying to stop the fight before it really gets going so you can win, so you don't have to get all hot under the collar. And yeah, unfortunately, dealing with my mom for decades like that became habitual. And then it got to be like that when I was dealing with my wife, and God, she must have suffered so much, and I love her so much, and she put up with too much for too long out of me without setting me straight. But she's admitted, she's like, I just tried to keep things calm for you because of all your stress. I didn't want to start a fight. But unfortunately, she should have put me in check because I probably would have addressed the issues then, and I might be in a lot better standing with her now. And I wouldn't have tried to constantly just dissect her argument as much as hear her feelings and validate her emotions. And that's one thing I've had to deal with is she's like, you have a severe lack of empathy. She made me watch this video by some Brené Brown chick, Brene Brown, on empathy. It seems a little convoluted, but sympathy versus empathy, in layman's terms, is sympathy is I feel bad for you. Empathy is I feel bad with you. And watching that video, you know, I've always been a fixer. When someone's got a problem, I try to fix it, to fix them, to make it better. Because I'm caring and nurturing, not because I think I know better, but still, they just want to be heard and told, oh my God, I'm sorry that you're going through that. Let's talk about it. Tell me about your feelings. Like to listen and not try to get to work. And a lot of people struggle with that. You're sitting there going, how can I fix this person? How can I fix the situation? Sometimes you just got to back off and just let them vent. You know, they talk about the police these days have gotten better at letting people that are raging out just say a bunch of shit and get out of their system, and then they calm themselves down, and it's natural de-escalation. They taught us that when I worked at the goddamn jail, that sometimes if somebody's yelling and swearing, just let them. Don't try to tell them they're getting a violation. Don't try to write them up. Don't try to get them shipped out of here to a more secure facility. Just let them vent, and then calmly approach them and talk it out with them. And I put that shit to practice, and it fucking works. So the fact that I did it professionally, but I couldn't do it personally, just makes me feel like an even bigger schmuck. Because going to see my therapist now, it feels good. And I'm telling him all these coping mechanisms that I had that I see are wrong and negative, like food and fucking. And good ones, like talking it out, just listening, delving into a hobby or something. So that's what I'm getting is he's telling me, yes, those are good. It seems like you're on the right track. Unfortunately, with the wife, she's like, I wish you would have realized this a while ago because my feelings for you have dissipated to the point where I don't even call it love anymore. I care about you and thank you for my children, but that's where I'm at. And that's what I've been doing and why I haven't been podcasting for many months is because I've just been in a very deep, dark depression. And I tried and tried and tried for months to get into the same therapist that my wife sees because she already knows the story, thinking that would be a shortcut. But it turns out that she's probably less objective because she's been listening to the missus for so long, and she takes her side because she's got that slant. And I thought, well, she'll see her, she'll see me, couples therapy, bing, bang, boom, fix it. I wasn't thinking. I was trying to fix it. I was trying to attack the problem instead of sit back and kind of observe and postulate and introspectively think. And I suffered for it because when I should have backed off my wife when she left, I was always in her face and trying to fix things. And she's like, it gets to the point where I feel smothered and I want to push you away. And it's done more harm than good. And that's what it's like. Sometimes you try so hard and it just makes things worse because you're not really focusing on dealing with the problem as much as you are with trying to eliminate it. So to wrap this up, I had to swallow my pride and admit that I needed help. And whether or not I end up divorced or whatever happens, knock on wood, maybe Jmann gets a miracle and she loves me again without the divorce, but I doubt it. But anyways, I need to talk it out. I need to let go of past coping mechanisms. And if you're somebody like me who has a very stressful life with a lot of complicated moving parts, what you should do is evaluate what's going on with you. And you should maybe not always rely on what you think works. And you should step outside of your comfort zone because other people are watching you just deconstruct yourself over all this, all the yelling with
the beast
and engaging her. Now, I've said myself, if I don't fight with her, she's going to send the cops here thinking that there's something wrong just to harass me, to get under my skin. Or my mom, if I don't fight with her, she's going to complain that I'm not talking to her, and my dad's going to call me and say, please call your mom. It's miserable here. She's making my life hell. Like, fuck you. What about me? You know, like, I should disengage. And as my therapist says, just don't even give in to my mom. Just say, I'm not going to address this, and hang up. Don't have the fight. Don't feel like I need to put her in her place. You know, and that goes double for
the beast.
Like, just disengage. Don't have the fight. They're both living rent-free inside my head, and it's partially responsible for destroying my marriage and making me unbearable to live with because I was just on edge all the time. And frankly, being a social worker, I had too much on my plate. The money was comparable to what I made at the jail, but the stress level was too high. I didn't handle it well. And I didn't prioritize my family or my wife. I was too busy trying to do karate to de-stress and podcast to de-stress. And I just took on too much, and I got myself all twisted up, and now I'm losing virtually everything, and it sucks. But if you have these problems like me, listen to the people that care about you. They're only trying to help. Do what they say and try something else. Try something new. Don't go with the tried and true methods that just keep you chasing your own tail because you're not getting anywhere. In closing, the therapy is helping. I am starting to feel better. Obviously, things still suck in my life, but I'm doing something about it rather than just sit there and bitch about it or be a bear to deal with. You should do it too if you have these problems. Talk to somebody, a friend, a family member, a coworker, anybody that'll listen. Like, take steps. Don't suffer in silence and don't think you have to shoulder all of that yourself. because I did it for far too long. And it fucked my life up. Interact with the show on Facebook at facebook.com/group/podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann. And that's the end.